Well, good morning. The announcement you're going to hear this morning is truly historic, certainly not like anything I have ever heard. Last month, I stood up with CEOs of the major companies in the city of Detroit, Mary Barra and Bill Ford, Mark Stewart from FCA, Jay Farner from Quicken, Chris Illich, Jerry Anderson from DTE, Dan Lepp from Blue Cross, Wright Lassiter from Henry Ford, and Gary Torgo, the chair of the board of TCF Bank, and Cindy Paskey from Strategic Staffing, and Dr. Audrey Gregory of the Detroit Medical Center also signed up to the commitment, although the speed with which we put it together, they couldn't make it that day. These major 11 companies, I asked them that day to do something different, largely at the suggestion of Reverend Wendell Anthony. I didn't ask them, give me a hiring goal, give me a dollar goal. I said, what I want is your voice. I want you to stand out and speak out clearly against the racial injustice in the country and in the criminal justice system. And for a corporate leader, many of whom are publicly running publicly traded corporations, it's a lot easier to write a check than to stand up and make a clear moral statement at a time of political tension, and yet every one of them did it. And since that day last month, you've seen each of these companies go back and take actions in ways that are fundamentally better for this country. And today, Gary Torgo and TCF Bank are here to talk about an extraordinary commitment. And Gary Torgo's commitment to our project goes back to 2014. When I became the mayor, I had this idea that if we knocked down the burned out houses, we could save a lot of the old houses and get them fixed up. And we started in the Marygrove neighborhood, absolutely beautiful architecture and a lot of burned out houses. And I put Gary Torgo in the car one day, and he and I drove through the neighborhood. And I said, we'll knock down the burned out houses, but many of these houses are beautiful. They can be saved, but we're going to need a bank to make loans to get them fixed up. And at the time, the houses in that neighborhood were probably going for less than $10,000. And Gary said, you know, we're a little bank in Troy with only a branch or two in Detroit. And I said, Gary, you may be a small bank, but you have the moral heart of a giant. And I just want you to start with this neighborhood and go for there. Then Talmer Bank did go into the Marygrove neighborhood, found out you couldn't just make loans, you actually had to put in down payment assistance so we could get new homeowners, we could build wealth. And he called me a year later and we'd gone from $10,000 to $30,000 a house, and a year or two later to $60,000 a house. We were building wealth in the black community in a way that had not been done in a while. And the question of inequality in wealth in this country has its roots, as we all know, that go back generations, from discrimination in employment and business opportunities where African Americans couldn't make the same money, to the inability to get loans to start businesses, to the federal government's intentional policies to make it difficult for there to be black home ownership. And one of the few cities in the country that succeeded in building black wealth in the last century was Detroit, where African Americans could get jobs in manufacturing and start businesses, could own their own homes. You've seen in this city, it's not unusual in this city, to see people who are living in the homes of their grandparents. That was a source of wealth that was passed down to generations. And so we took a small step there, and I've been very fortunate in recent years. The other banks have pitched in a big way. Fifth Third and Flagstar and Huntington and, of course, J.P. Morgan Chase have all come in an extraordinary way. But little Talmer Bank is now managed to become TCF Bank, and Gary Torgo is chairman of the board of the largest bank in the state of Michigan, one of the largest in the Midwest. It's still growing. They're building a 21-story corporate headquarters in downtown Detroit. They're moving in 500 employees. And they did something that was very important to me. They replaced the name of our convention center from somebody who drove African Americans out of their homes to the name of an institution that's making black home ownership accessible again. All of that would have been an exceptional accomplishment. But today you're going to hear something that goes far beyond that, a commitment to restore, to start to reverse the historic discrimination. And it couldn't be more appropriate than this week when the City Council put Proposal N on the ballot. And we are going to renovate those 8,000 homes. We want Detroiters to buy those homes. We want to see the home ownership rate in Detroit go back to where it was and to build wealth. And the other thing was, in this room yesterday, I had 20 black business owners who are in the renovation, construction, demolition, landscaping business. And as we invest this $250 million in Detroit companies, they're going to need loans. We can't rely on Motor City Match. The government can't do it. We've got to have the private sector be able to back the companies. Nobody's given these companies anything. We got great companies who are going to grow and succeed, but they have to have access to capital. And the question is, how were they going to get it? And so, as we're asking the question, how are we going to get mortgages to fix up these houses? How are we going to get loans for black businesses to grow with the city? Gary Torgo said, I've been thinking since that first week in June, what is TCF's moral obligation? And he's here today to talk about what they're going to do. So please, please welcome a giant in the city of Detroit, Gary Torgo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. It is my honor to be here today representing TCF and its CEO, Craig Dahl. With me this morning is our President and COO, Tom Schaefer, our Executive Vice President of Regional Banking, Mike Jones, our Director of Fair Lending and Responsible Banking, Lindsay Youssef, our Chief Diversity Officer and Director of Strategic Partnerships, Donnell White, our Director of Community Relations, formerly of the City of Detroit, Latrice McClendon, and our Director of Corporate Communications, Randy Barris. On June 23, 1963, in the convention hall now called the TCF Center, the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. previewed one of the greatest speeches in the history of mankind. Long remembered as his I Have a Dream speech, Reverend King delivered an updated version of the address 2 months later on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. He bent the arc of justice with his words and his will. But he stood here first in our hometown in Detroit, and he summoned Americans to the cause of justice. Before joining a march along Woodward Avenue, Reverend King told the crowd that Black Americans were too long denied the economic fruits of freedom. 57 years later, we gather today in honest acknowledgement that his dream is as yet unfulfilled. A few weeks ago, shortly after George Floyd's tragic murder shook America to its core, our Mayor, Mike Duggan, summoned business leaders to a news conference. The Mayor and NAACP President, Reverend Wendell Anthony, urged us to do more than just talk about racial equity and social justice. We collectively, as representatives of Detroit's corporate community, pledged to them to walk the walk. For TCF Bank, that challenge led to a number of critical initiatives, including 2 that we launched today. These programs address the systemic racism that has denied too many their piece of the American dream, the opportunity to own a business, and the ability to own a home. Today, we humbly strengthen our commitment to right historic wrongs with a loan program audacious in its size and ambition, a $1 billion commitment for minority communities, a $1 billion commitment for small businesses owned by women and minority communities. With this pledge, small business loans of up to $1 million each will be available across our bank's footprint. This means dramatically more access to capital for people and communities long denied their fair share. As is always the case for TCF, Detroit's hometown bank, we will do all we can in all of our markets, but in particular in Detroit, Wayne County, and the state of Michigan. Our great thanks today is also due to County Executive Warren Evans, who inspired us to invest right when the pandemic began with the Wayne County in a pace-setting small business loan program, which saw great success during these most difficult times. As the numbers bear out, Black business owners are twice as likely as others to be rejected for loans and far more likely to be refused full funding. That must stop, and we hope for TCF and its customers it starts here today. Also today, we are announcing a $10 million expansion of our Heart and Home program, which began right here in Detroit, Michigan, to assist low and moderate income homebuyers. We will provide through this program grants of up to $3,000 to help cover closing costs and down payments for new home purchases. You've seen the grim data. Black homeownership is at a record low level. In some ways, the racial imbalance in homeownership is worse today for Blacks than it was in 1963, when housing discrimination was still legal. So why are we taking these steps today? Well, as you might remember from Mayor Duggan's news conference, it starts with the mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan, and Reverend Wendell Anthony, leaders of leaders, who say often to us, everybody can do something to create change. There's something remarkable about this moment, a moment of political division, a moment of pandemic, a moment of protests in the streets. Yes, this is a time of hard and critical reflection, but it is also a time for renewal and hope. We know from history that great crises can lead to huge leaps forward in the march of humankind. This is one of those moments, and it is a time for brave optimism. Look at the history of this city of Detroit. In 1967, just 4 years after Reverend King marched along Woodward Avenue in our town, police brutality and economic injustice spurred such hatred that this city burned. Today, thank God, we see different and something ever so hopeful. Yes, there is a handful of people here and elsewhere who are resorting to violence, and yes, there are some people too callous to recognize that racism still exists. But for most of us, this is a moment when we recognize that none of us will be truly free until all of us are truly equal. It is therefore incumbent upon us to act with what the Reverend King called the fierce urgency of now, to act with courage, to act in faith with each other, and in our ability to pull together when the world seems to be falling apart. We assembled here have faith and confidence in Detroiters. We have faith and confidence in Michiganders. We have faith and confidence in Americans. And we hope we can do our part to help realize these American ideals. 2 months after his march in Detroit, Reverend King was a featured speaker at the March on Washington, where he gave his I Have a Dream speech. Another speaker that day was John Lewis. Congressman Lewis passed away a few days ago and leaves a legacy of personal heroism and grace that serves to challenge us here today. On that historic day in 1963, Reverend King's ever-soaring prose inspired a nation to dream of what could be. Today, 57 years later, with the help of a great mayor, a great city, we are trying to do our part in a billion ways to help realize his dream for America, a realization born of optimism and hope, opportunity as its driver, and prosperity as its goal for all. As Reverend King said in our hometown and for all Detroiters that day in 1963, and with this faith I will go out and carve a tunnel of hope through the mountain of despair. With this faith I will go out with you and transform the dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Mr. Mayor, Reverend Anthony, Mr. County Executive, Mrs. Sharita Smith, we stand proudly with each of you, inspired by the work you've assigned and brimming with optimism for our bright tomorrows. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce the County Executive, Mr. Warren Evans.
Thank you to TCF Bank, Chairman Gary Torgo. Your partnership makes this day possible. Together, we are pleased to announce
a $1 billion loan commitment to minority communities, minority and women-owned businesses, and $10 million grant program to assist low to moderate income home buyers. What TCF is proposing here is a game changer. Since COVID-19 hit our community, Wayne County has been disproportionately impacted, specifically within our minority community. I have always been an advocate for very purposeful solutions, and it is important in today's world that assistance be targeted towards the areas that need the most help. Wayne County is one of the most diverse counties in the country. We value and embrace the diversity as a strength and welcome TCF small business loans targeted towards women and minorities. Small businesses continue to be the backbone of our community, and we want to cultivate and make them thrive and actually grow. One of the great things about having a national bank locating its headquarters in our county is you get to create possibilities like this. I'm happy our TCF loan program was so successful. I'm so happy to hear that it was the inspiration for today's announcement. Now that our teams have worked together and know each other, greater things can happen. We continue to listen and provide solutions like the TCF Wayne County Loan Program. In March, we were hearing that federal help was not coming fast enough. So we created a loan program in partnership with TCF that got businesses cash in their hands within a week. Because of that partnership, we were able to get millions of dollars into the hands of hundreds of small businesses. Public-private partnerships like this are the key to successfully moving forward and thriving as a region. These partnerships are what will save our local economy. In addition to the work with TCF, Wayne County has been addressing the needs of small businesses, including almost $60 million in small business grants. We've reduced the cost of health care insurance for small businesses and made it easier to enroll. We eased regulations on permits and made it easier for businesses to adapt to social distancing standards. We work with the Open Streets program, allowing restaurants to expand to patios and streets to increase capacity. Half of the communities in Wayne County, of which there are 43, have participated in the Open Streets program. Partnered with Wayne County Metro to give direct rental and utility relief to individuals unable to keep up with their payments. We provided small businesses access to reputable and affordable PPEs. We have been aggressive in attacking this virus and ensuring our economy isn't impacted. We welcome TCF's commitment to diversity and small businesses as another tool. TCF Bank's $1 billion loan commitment for minority and women-owned small businesses will lead the way to a more equitable and prosperous Wayne County. Thank you for your contribution to a more equitable and prosperous Wayne County, Gary Torgo. I will now turn the floor over to our community partner, Sharita Smith from Grandmont Rosedale Association. Sharita.
Well, good morning. My name is Sharita Smith, and I serve as Executive Director of the Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation in Northwest Detroit. Our community is comprised of 5 distinct neighborhoods, 15,000 residents, and about 500 small businesses. And our organization has served the community for over 30 years, advancing economic equity through homeownership and economic development. The Grandmont Rosedale community represents resilience, innovation, and community advancement. Having mostly stabilized our residential housing, these past few years, we've been able to turn our focus to more commercial revitalization and small business. We have a small business resource center and co-working space called Grand River Workplace, where over 90% of the business members live within a 3-mile radius. So we are indeed hyper-local. Like every neighborhood in this city, we want our 15,000 residents to be able to access all the goods and services that they need and desire right in the community where they live. We still have a ways to go, But in recent years, we've been able to attract an independent bookstore, thanks to Susan, an art gallery, Norwest Gallery of Art, thanks to Asia Hamilton, Leanne's Bridal Shop, Detroit Vegan Soul, a grooming center, a garden bug, a spa appeal with Miss Bynum, a local coffee shop, and so much more. All of this was put at risk with COVID-19, but with commitments like this, we believe our community will continue to thrive. All of these businesses are minority and woman-owned. And while there are a number of challenges to owning and operating a small business, without fail, these savvy, persistent entrepreneurs would tell you that access to capital is the #1 challenge. And this challenge can be especially daunting for minority-owned businesses, as we all know. I want to thank TCF for taking this challenge head-on and demonstrating extraordinary leadership with this $1 billion commitment. I am grateful that our community has been able to partner with TCF through the Strategic Neighborhood Fund Initiative, thank you, Mayor Duggan, and that the bank's leadership, exemplified by Chairman Gary Torgo, has demonstrated how to enter a community and partner with us in a way that is respectful and meaningful, touring the neighborhood, listening to residents and business owners, and working with us to craft solutions to community challenges. TCF is already having a great impact and is well regarded in our community. So thank you again for your leadership and this extraordinary commitment to advancing economic justice through homeownership and small business capital. We know TCF is a big institution, but we thank you for being our partner and working with us to ensure, even at the local neighborhood level, that Grandmont Rosedale continues to be an opportunity community. Your commitment, leadership, and investment has, is, and will continue to make a difference. Now I'd like to welcome our distinguished mayor, Mayor Michael Duggan.
Well, thank you to Sharita Smith. And this is how we bring our commercial districts back. You have a great organization like Grandmont Rosedale. We're investing millions of dollars, if you haven't been out there on Grand River, rebuilding the streetscape in the way the neighbors and the business owners wanted it, to make it more walkable. You'll be able to get across the street without having to sprint, to be able to shop from one side to the other. And TCF has adopted the neighborhood and the Strategic Neighborhood Fund and is investing in businesses and housing in the area. This is what it's going to take to reverse the decline, and we're all working together with that. We will take any questions. I assume you'll probably want to talk to Gary and not me, but any questions anybody has. Gary, come on back. And you can stay socially appropriately here near me. Go ahead.
First of all, can you just talk about when these funds will be available and how people can apply? And how much of that money do you think will flow through Detroit?
Okay, I'll take the second question first. Detroit is our hometown, and we, just to give you an example, on the PPP loans, our company, across all of our divisions, did 16,000 PPP loans, and 9,000 of them were here in Michigan. So we have a great concentration here in Detroit and in Wayne County in Michigan. And when you have $1 billion, you could really do a lot with it. And we're hoping that people will come and apply in Detroit, and we will be able to satisfy those opportunities and those needs. We are opening the program now. We're beginning to put our team in place to learn the rules, to understand it. And so shortly you will begin to see announcements from TCF about how to apply and who the teammates will be that will be operating this department.
And how will you help these businesses get around the barriers that they typically experience? I just talked to one minority, woman-owned, black-owned business, and she was rejected, and she was almost in tears saying that, well, they didn't come back and say, well, we can't give you 25,000, but how about 15? How will you help eliminate those barriers that they typically face?
Well, a perfect example is the Wayne County loan program that we partnered up with Warren Evans and the County Commission. We took those applications. We had requirements for those applications. The businesses met those requirements. We got the money out within 2 weeks of the application approvals, and we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure that we do everything we can to put those loans in the right place. It's still a business loan. There's still requirements that go with it, but we're going to do everything we can to partner up with community organizations, with the CDFIs, to be able to find those businesses who need our help and to bring them to our table and to try and loan that money to them.
And Gary, why don't you ask the county executive to talk about, he moved quickly and decisively to create this bridge period. It was huge for a whole lot of Detroit businesses. This is the way everybody working together is having an effect.
Yeah, I think the teamwork has been extraordinary. The teamwork with TCF, and frankly, I'd take a minute to say this, the teamwork with the city of Detroit. The common thread has been we're one community, and we need to make sure that we're getting all of the help we can to small and minority businesses. I mean, as you know, Vicki, that with minority businesses, it's almost like hiring has been historically. We are the last to be hired, and we're the first to be fired or laid off. And so our goal has been to grow minority businesses, not just hopefully help those that are there to exist. And so what we thought early in Wayne County was, and as we were talking to people and many businesses in Detroit, the problem was, how long is it going to take for this money to get to us? Provided they're successful, there still is the problem of small businesses have bills due the first of every month. And if you don't have the money to be able to deal with that, then you're going to have significant problems. And so, the federal government makes money available, but it's kind of like a battleship turning to deal with a problem. And at the more local level is more like a speedboat spinning around to get something done. So what was important to us is to be able to get these things done in a very, very short period of time, a week in some instances, in terms of getting money out there. And so I feel very strongly, not just my agency, but others, that there's a very strong commitment here to do it the right way. And one of the things I've got to say about businesses, not all businesses have all of the requisite requirements that are necessary, but if they call Wayne County, and I'm sure Detroit the same way, we have people who will help walk through that process and to help some small businesses with, the kind of fear obstacle of how do I fill out this application, what needs to be done here, what do I have, what could be an alternative to what I don't have, and that sort of thing. So thank you very much.
The man who generated a lot of this momentum with a phone call to me one day saying, do you think we could get the corporate leaders, the CEOs in this town, to make an unequivocal moral statement and all stand together? And it has created a great deal of momentum. The longtime president of the Detroit branch, NAACP, Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me say good morning to everybody and to my good friend and brother, Gary Torgo. I was so excited about this, I even got a ticket coming down here and got pulled over by the police. And I didn't say who I was and all of that, but I just dealt with it. This is historic. This is the man, and this is the plan. And I want to commend Gary and the mayor. I have a statement because of the historic nature of this. As we stand here today, following the recent passing of two giant American icons for civil rights and human rights, Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian and Congressman John R. Lewis, we are indeed living the words of Reverend C.T. Vivian, who said, "Life is in the doing." Congressman Lewis also reminded us that we must be headlights and not taillights. TCF Financial Corporation, under the stellar leadership of its chairman and my friend, Gary Torgo, is indeed doing what must be done to provide economic access and equity of opportunity for our community. As the chairman of the TCF Financial Center and of that corporation, Gary Torgo is demonstrating clearly that your bank, his bank, is serving as a headlight and not a tail light. This program initiative of $1 billion with a B in loan commitments for minority communities and minority and women-owned small businesses puts the walk in the talk to bring about economic change. Several weeks ago, on June 3rd, Mayor Duggan and I, and the mayor's already spoken about that, challenged corporations and businesses to step up and step out in their voices and actions against systemic racism, both inside and outside of their corporate sanctuaries. We salute those actually taking steps to bring about systemic change. When TCF changed the name of our Cobo Convention Center from Cobo Hall to the TCF Center, they not only changed the name, but they in fact changed the game. Small businesses are vitally important to our community. Heart and home grants are essential to neighborhood growth and development. They are really at the heart and epicenter of city life. TCF's intention to double the grant funds from 2019 and 2020 is indeed significant. We must now work to make certain that the opportunity for loans and grants is actualized in the community. I think Executive Evans and the mayor have indicated that. I know that Gary is committed to that. There must be a clear and specific pathway towards realizing this opportunity. Individuals and businesses must be prepared to take advantage of this unique moment in our economic history. So today we salute TCF for this bold initiative. Not only are you building a new house to place your headquarters in the heart of downtown Detroit, you are really establishing a new home. For it is from the home that individuals grow, prosper, and fulfill their purpose. Your commitment to strategic partnerships, philanthropy, and service sets a prime example. It inspires us to send out another call to all other businesses and corporations to follow your lead. Everyone can help to lead, from the boardroom to the executive team, to procurement, to personnel, to community outreach, and advocacy against systemic racism and inequality. TCF is lighting the way. We invite and encourage others to follow the path that they have so clearly and distinctly illuminated. Thank you for bringing about this historic reality in the city of Detroit and in Wayne County.
Do we have other questions?
I'll go one more time. What would you say to some of these businesses? And you had the Motor City Match. There have been so many businesses that opened up in the city over the last few years. What would you say to those who are frustrated after after applying and then being rejected and just not being able to plug in? Maybe they don't have all the information, but some are just missing out.
Well, Motor City Match is a great place to start. Not only have we started 100 businesses with the grants, we've helped probably 500 folks write their business plans, which is a key to being able to get access to money. But a number of people haven't tried because they didn't think there was a real prospect of success. And when TCF Bank, Motor City Match has been great. It's $500,000 a quarter. A $1 billion loan commitment is a whole different level of opportunity. And I think people should understand that if you were discouraged before, you've got now city programs, you've got county programs, and you've got $1 billion coming out of TCF Bank. It's a good day for entrepreneurship in the city of Detroit.
Thank you, Ms. Vicki. You always asking hard questions, but let me just say this. I always was taught that don't nothing beat a failure but a try. This is a new initiative. It's a continuation, it's a building, it's an opening up. So all of those people who may not have succeeded the last time, that does not mean you cannot succeed this time. So I would encourage people to get ready and to step up. And there are ways in which you can be prepared to take advantage of this opportunity. Let us not view it as a stumbling block, but let us view it as a building block, to the degree that we can stand on this opportunity and take advantage of it. They didn't have to do this. $1 billion in loan commitments. and grants to the community. But they did, they stepped out. And there needs to be some other institutions that do the same thing, that step up and step out, and to make a plan so that people can take full advantage of it. I know when people hear this in the community, they're going to say, well, there's another one. Yeah, there's another. There's another opportunity for you to take advantage of the opportunity. So don't be discouraged about what happened in the past. Grab hold of to the reins of what's happening in the future. I mentioned C.T. Vivian and John Lewis earlier. One of the things that C.T. Vivian always said was that life is in the doing. Life is in the doing, which means that you got to do, you got to work, you got to move. Ain't nobody coming to you like manna from heaven. This is like manna, but you got to take advantage of it and be prepared to deal with it. So let's not be discouraged. Let us be encouraged. And the media can help by getting that word out and letting people know that now is the time to take advantage of the opportunity. I always say the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity. Now is your opportunity, so seize it.
Hi, Annalise with Cranes Detroit Business. Couple questions. This could be for Gary or Trita or whoever wants to answer. Cranes has talked to some businesses that may be afraid to take on more debt right now, especially with future profits so hard to predict, especially small businesses that might be relying on people coming into the store, spending more on safety gear, that sort of things, and not knowing how much profit they're going to get out of it. So how do you speak with those businesses and who may not want to take on a loan?
Right, it's a great question. So we are hoping that this is a very temporary situation, and we are hoping that through the programs that are out there that the mayor has talked about, the county executive, the loan programs, the grant programs, we are hoping that those will continue to assist those that are really struggling, and we know small businesses are in a tremendous struggle. We're hoping there's more federal help to come through. We're hoping that there's a continuation of the unemployment, which we very badly need. And then we are hopeful that when this temporary situation ends, and we are optimistic that this country will get back to where it should be, there'll be opportunities for banks like us to do not only loans, but to provide home and heart grants for people to buy houses. I don't know if you saw the news, there's a shortage of houses, and I think the mayor is working on that. There is housing stock to be bought in Detroit. We'd like to put the Home and Heart program to work to be able to provide down payments and assistance, and we're going to be there to walk these businesses through these issues.
Okay, and then obviously, this is about it's looking to address a lack of lending in the past to Black-owned and other minority-owned businesses. Can you speak to that past a bit, specifically in relation to TCF and Chemical Bank?
Sure. So this has been a problem long before I was in the banking business. I talked about 1963. This is a issue that has evolved through the banking system. And I think today, and the mayor mentioned it, there are other colleague banks of ours, Flagstar and Huntington and Fifth Third, Bank of America, TCF and others, that recognize that this is a moment to make a turn. And when we announce $1 billion loan commitment, we recognize what happened in the past. We recognize what we can do in the future. And I think our colleague banks are doing the same thing. When the mayor decided to do the Strategic Neighborhood Fund, and we got together with the other banks and we said it's a $5 million commitment to the neighborhoods. That's never been done by any corporation or any bank in town. The banks came forward as colleagues, and we did it together because we recognize banks are in a unique position today to make real change, and that's what we're doing here today, and that's what TCF hopes, and I think Reverend Anthony is right. I think it's not just TCF. Others are doing it. Others are stepping out. Other corporations are doing it, and I think this is going to be sort of a joint movement around the country to recognize opportunity, and banks are uniquely situated to do that.
Thank you.
Mike?
Hi, another question for Gary. My name's Adrienne Roberts with the Free Press. I'm wondering how you think about this as a CEO. When you take a pledge to end systemic racism, how do you think about how balancing what you need to do at your own company versus what you need to do for the community? And then how are you thinking about this long-term beyond this investment up front here?
Okay, it's a great question. First, I'm not the CEO, I'm the chairman, and there is a CEO.
My apologies.
We know that in order to be able to do these things, we have to be a successful company. You can't announce a $1 billion loan program or a $10 million Heart and Home grant program without being successful. And we're doing everything we can. And it's a very difficult time for banks as well because our customers are really struggling. We know we have to be profitable. We know we have to satisfy our shareholders. We know we have to perform as a bank, and we are looking at every area of our business today. I've got our team here today. Every day we are on calls and discussions about making sure that our bank remains healthy and strong so that we can get into the next era of prosperity and continue to do the things that we're doing, and we're fully focused on that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Larry Spruill, WDAB Local 4. Two questions, I believe, maybe for you. Does these businesses, do they have to have a brick and mortar, or can they have like an online or work from home businesses to apply for these loans? And then also, and forgive me if it's a dumb question, but you said minority, black-owned women businesses. Can black-owned men business apply for this loan as well?
Sure. Let me start with the first one. The second one, yes, maybe we didn't speak it out right, but it's all minority. It's men, women, and women-owned, and absolutely black men. And we hope that that will be the case, that they will come forward. And your other question was?
Do they have to have a brick and mortar,
Yes.
or can this be like an online?
No, there's no requirement for brick and mortar. They don't have to own any real estate. They can be online. They can be renting. They can be on the street doing work. There are no barriers here. Any small business that needs help and they can qualify for that loan, we're looking forward to having them come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. So if I could put in one last plug with all this extra capital in town, buildingdetroit.org. You can buy a house. We sold more than 300 of them in June, overwhelmingly to Detroiters who were renters who want to buy. And so if you're tired of paying your landlord and you want a chance to own a house, we've got a lot of them on there right now, and of course there'll be 8,000 more coming. But check out buildingdetroit.org, and thank you all very much for being here.